Well, welcome to part 3 of this Countach tour. And last night we arrived here. This is Agriturismo Grutti near Modena, which is our base for the next 3 days, in torrential rain. It wasn't that bad just when we arrived, but it was wet enough. But overnight, my goodness, there was some rain last night. I was just talking to the owner, and he was saying that they had about 75-80 mil of rain overnight. Proper torrential. With severe weather warning out for this area. Hence why the Countach is tucked in his tractor shed. And I think, isn't that ironic? It's just a place to park a Lamborghini Countach. Now, today we are going to the Lamborghini factory. And we're hoping to get this next to model number 1, the first Countach off the production line there, green Countach. I'm going to do a tour of the production line and things. So that's the plan today. Countach, apart from being a little damp, tore down the Autostrada last night. Fantastic. I've literally just checked the oil. It's still right up on the mark, clean as a whistle. That, as I say, the original video at the start of this tour, it holds so much oil, 17.5 litres of oil. And it just means the oil is sort of always clean, and it's very slow to move from max to min on the dipstick. So it charges along, it's fueled up. If you look outside, I feel for them here because they're meant to be harvesting the grapes. And with rain like this, apparently they had a 70 or 80 mil last week as well. And it's proving really tough. They're just pulling their hair out because you get botrytis comes in when it's really damp and moist like this. So their fingers crossed they can get the grape harvest in, but the weather at the moment is not behaving. Anyway, let's wake the Countach up and head off to the factory. Well, I'm pleased to say it has stopped raining, thank goodness, after all that rain. And I've been round the plant at Lamborghini, and one of the things I'd requested, and I'm so grateful to them, is for them to wheel out this LP400. This is Countach number 1. This is the first production Countach. And what I'm going to do is sort of compare it to my QV. I'm sorry it's a little sort of travel stain, shall we say, but it has done 1,600 kilometres getting here, and that's why it looks a bit damp. But this one is utterly pristine, and there's key differences with Countach. People don't realise how different they are, especially when you're looking at a 1974. This car came off the production lines. This is basically what we're celebrating. When this car was produced, September 1974, mine is in 1987, and production, remember, finished in 1990. So it was a really long production life, and they only produced 2,000 cars in that time. Very few LP 400s. I think it's about 150. I'll flash it up now on screen. Immediately what you see, it is actually a lower roofline on LP 400 than the QV. And about 1980-81, you get a low Countach, low body Countach and normal height Countach, and they did that to increase the cabin space. It's hard to show the difference in height in these two cars, but if I do that against my hip there and wander over to this one, you will see the difference. It is about 4 inches lower in the body, and yet somehow they disguise it. And if you don't know their different heights, people don't realise this difference between low body Countach and regular body or high body Countach. But it makes such a big difference when you get inside one space. So that's the immediate thing I notice on how low and wide this car looks. Other details I notice is retracted little bumper on the front. This was very tiny, just hardly protruded. Over time, safety regs, etc., meant they had to extend it here, so it actually acted like a bumper. This also, I didn't realise, is recessed. The actual front bonnet, you can see here, there is a gap there. I do not know, I'm going to check later whether that is an air vent feeding the ventilation. Mine feeds from inside here. The air is actually through these intakes. One's brake, one goes into the interior, but you can see there it's flush there. That's a big difference as well. I've got orange indicators, this seems to have no indicators. The other obvious big difference are the size of the tyres. These, they didn't have the P7 ready in time for when they launched the LP400. Basically, Ferruccio Lamborghini says, I want to get this into production, I need the cash. So he was rushed into production. Bob Wallace, who was still doing development, he said he wanted to wait for the P7 tyres. Said, no, we want to get it out there, I'm a business, we've got so much demand for this car, thereby. So it's on 215 70/14 tyres at the rear, 215. My Countach 345 section tyres and 15-inch diameter the rear. Completely changes the look of the car. This is the early Gandini look, no flares, because it's such a smaller tyre than on my car. The other bits that are the same though, are like the ears, all the intake, that all remains the same. This has got a flush engine lid because it's got the first generation of engine in it, of the Countach, which had the side draft Webers on it. Mine has downdraft 4-valve cylinder, and that means I have a dome here. So this is, again, you can tell it's the early Countach. What else can we see at the back? Well, no badging. I'll have to find out if they didn't put any badging on it. I would have thought it did have badging, but someone here will know. It's got the standard exhaust. It's a great big metal exhaust. Mine has got the sports exhaust on it, red tip answer as well, and the periscoper. So this is why they're known as periscopers, this very odd little window here. And they thought this is how they're going to do the rear view, and they couldn't basically work out how to do it. So they ended up with just the window and a conventional mirror. And soon, just to save costs, they made it so it was a flat roof like mine, because that little window was unnecessary. Because the technology was never developed to do the periscope mirror. I think super clean look when you look at it, and no side mirrors at all on this car. You only have that rear view mirror, nothing here. I've got those mirrors there. Minor detail, a little round like there. I've got a square looking one there. Altogether, there's more muscle obviously on the QV. There's a delicacy to the LP400 that everybody loves. The trouble is it doesn't have any space inside. Interestingly, this is how they originally thought they were going to do the window, which gave a slightly bigger opening than mine, but they reverted to that design of door like that. I've only seen this Countach, this number one, with this window design here. This is also different. It's more aggressive here. My black comes up the door here and is more stepped here. This is much flusher than on my car, and my lock doesn't appear there. My lock is actually in the button, so mine actually has a cleaner look. You can see the button there. It's next to impossible to put the key in mine because it's obviously up there and you can't see it, but everything else is conventional. Now we get to the interior. Here, very different. What I hadn't realised on this car is it actually has fixed seats. So there's no adjustments on this seat at all. Handbrake on mine is the other side. This one comes out of this little space here. And this idea that this seat is fixed explains another thing which I've never understood on Countach, is how much adjustment there is on the steering column on both cars, I presume. Because the seats are fixed, you need a huge amount of steering column adjustment up and down, in and out, to take care of the fixed seats. So yeah, mine has that. This obviously has that as well. Pedals do not adjust. And the other thing that's different is the instruments. Glorious instruments, and how the rev counter is maximum revs is it's like 12 o'clock at the top.
do like these instruments, and it should have the miles displayed in a vertical stack rather than conventional in horizontal. Other things I can spot in here, I don't know, slightly different treatment of the dash, Alcantara or whatever, coverage for anti-reflection. I would quite like that on my car, because the reflections are just awful. Still the same gearbox, 5-speed gearbox, door pockets the same, wind-up windows, remarkably similar, all other traits, and speakers there, just the same as mine. This is the same, this is how you open. That internal one opens the engine cover, that one's the boot itself. I just open that, we'll have a quick look there as well. These fins are slightly different as well. These are, always thought this is so complicated to make. You can see the gap there is narrow. If you go down, then they're fanned out. This is a wider gap here. Just a styling thing, but it just makes manufacture that hard. And if you peer in this up here, you will then see that is where the radiator sits, and this is also, there's a cover that's got twin tanks, that's where you fill it up, is there, and there's another one the other side. So on my car I can fill it up from one side, but this side it has two fillers. Other things I noticed when I opened this, I was surprised to see a battery right at the back. The battery on my car is up the front. Stand back and just look at them. You can understand why the LP400 is celebrated, because it is the cleaner, the raw, beautiful. It shows off Gandini's lines beautifully. But there is an aggression to mine that I just adore, and I also think the wheel design is hard to beat. Early 400Ss got an even better wheel design than mine, where it's more 3D. The holes are still there, but the 3D is a cone around it. But I think my wheel design beats the LP400, and I know it's more usable and I can actually fit inside. I have very lucky to have driven an LP400. Simon Kidston has the most beautiful purple example, white leather. And that car, he's lowered the seat so you can actually sit in it because he's quite tall. Bob Wallace, I read a book on Bob Wallace, and he was explaining that he couldn't actually fit in the first prototype LP400 he was doing. And so he, on the development cars, he just threw away the seat and had two foam cushions, and basically sat on the floor on a foam cushion on the back, and that's how he did it at 6'2", thereabouts. But fantastic to get these two cars together, actually see them together. I've never done it before. Same crazy wipers on both of them, both work fantastically well, but it's that body height I think you'll spot. There you go, there's a look at the two Countach. What I'm going to do next is move my car over to where the original factory is, and then we'll just discuss where Lamborghini is heading with the modern cars and how it's changed, because interestingly the production line is still the same. The V12 cars are still produced in the same building just over there. Yeah, amazing to see the two cars together. So we've come from the first Countach to the Countach. Now we've gone from Countach to the Revuelto here. And this building here is the original Lamborghini building, Ferruccio Lamborghini. This is the building he put in, and it is still the management offices up here, and the production line is literally just through there. Now, I've spent the last 2-3 hours going around the production line. Unfortunately, there's still some secret stuff in there, and we're not actually allowed to film in there. So I'm just going to explain what's happening beyond that passageway there, and how there is a link between Countach and the latest V12 supercar from Lamborghini. It's interesting, isn't it? The size, just look at the size difference in them. This is just the modern era. Remember how many years in development is there between these cars? There's near 50 years almost. If you think that 1974 for Countach, and then this the Revuelto arrived in 2023, and unfortunately there's everything to go with it. But horsepower has gone up from 455 for the Countach to just on 1,000 horsepower, 1,015 horsepower for this one. Battery assistance, wildness. There is one way that Lamborghini doors open, and it's scissor doors. I have to do it on this one as well, just to show it off. I think they're terrific. I wish more manufacturers did them, because you hardly need any garage width and you can get in and out, and it helps because that's how they do the sill and build the strength to the cars. And the other big surprise warrant behind there, not only is the Revuelto in production behind there, also there is the Temiaro, their new V8 supercar, the Huracan replacement. There's even actually Huracan, the last few, there's about 4 weeks of Huracan production to go. That is also going down the production line there. And somehow they've managed it so they can produce 3 cars, different cars along the line, and it's not as though they're done in batteries. It might be Temiaro and then a Revuelto and then a Huracan. Great to see. And of course, we're now in a hybrid age, and it's very interesting to see this de-skinned, and the battery, 7 kilowatt hour battery, is down the spine of this car, and it's the same in the Temiaro. They actually share the same battery. Obviously, engines very different. Normally aspirated V12 for this 6.5 litre big engine, 12.6 compression ratio, and then the Temiaro V8 twin turbo, 10,000 RPM rev limit, 800 horsepower, and then the electric assistance taking it up to 900 and something. I don't know, just crazy power. Also, the carbon content of these cars. This completely carbon tub, so remember, and then carbon roof, but done in a different way. And we see all the big presses in there, how they create the substructure of the Revuelto. But the roof, that's layered carbon fibre as we know it there, because I think you can spec it with bare carbon if you want it on the roof. And then this is also carbon, the rear lid, and the bare exposed carbon there should you wish it. All cars are also open on the engine. There doesn't have an engine lid anymore on either of the new cars, the V8 and the V12. I'm surprised at that, but it's like the Bugatti Tourbillon as well. That seems to be the new way of doing it. My Countach is actually the very first use of carbon fibre on a Lamborghini, I believe. I'm seeing Horacio Pagani tomorrow just to check, but the engine lid on a QV is carbon. Some QV have a carbon front hatch lid as well. Mine doesn't have it. I'm going to have a look at the rear tyres on this. Are they bigger? Yes, they are. 355, 25 by 22. So 355 width on the Revuelto, 345 on the Countach. So it even beats it on that. But overall, the design, it just shouts Lamborghini. And when you look inside, the other thing I just think is glorious here is all the colours you get with Lamborghini. I was looking back, first time I came here and walked through there, I think it was 99. I'd come here to test a Lamborghini LM002, just mad times. And then we came back and I did Diablo 6 litre. And I've actually got pictures of me on the production line in there. And it was very much a hand-built car in those days. The engine was built in-house, and the structure of the cars wasn't quite as precise, shall we say, as it is today. And there was hammers obvious in use along the production line. Glorious times in that 6 litre Diablo. It was early days of Audi-owned Lamborghini. The investment here is just nuts. We had to take a car to go out to the outer parts of this production plant now. All the carbon fibre is done here, engine assembly. The Revuelto isn't actually painted here, but the Temiaro will be painted here, as was the Aventador and obviously Urus, which is the big number machine in here. And I think target manufacturer on the Temiaro is around 10 cars a day, so quite a big volume. The other thing to remember about this area of Lamborghini, this building, actually where the production line is Ferruccio Lamborghini's building. He put it in. And reading the history of Lamborghini, one thing that strikes you is he invested heavily. He was a wealthy entrepreneur before he formed Lamborghini in 1963. And reading this story on Bob Wallace, he was mightily impressed because he had way better machining facilities than Ferrari had at launch. It was all the latest tech. And that's why Bob Wallace went here rather than, he worked a little bit at Maserati, but that's what attracted to him. And if you think about the engine that Lamborghini produced, those early V12s that were in Spada and GT350, GT400, Miura, they were world-class engines. and it's fascinating to now go in there, and we're sort of world class on engines still here at Lamborghini, and they're manufactured again here. The V12 and V8 are being built here. It's the V10 from Huracan that was shared obviously with Audi, not so here, unique engines to Lamborghini, so it's going back to sort of the old days. And the building is the same. They've actually extended at the back of it, so it's a much bigger building now, obviously, than when it was Ferrucci Lamborghini. But I just love the early history, and I see those early pictures of Countach. Countach was a very hand-built car. Under here is a sort of tubular frame that they then dressed, and the body panels on a Countach are basically hand-formed. Doors, they're all made to fit, so it's aluminium structure, and then you'll see them with hammers and fillers to make it the shape it is. And I was talking to someone in there, we're talking about the precision of the new carbon way of building a car, and if they find they're half a mil out on a fixing it, and there's what's gone wrong, here's measured Countach from Polystorica, and they've been up to 2 centimetres out on the tubular frame, because it was handmade. You just forget, in 1974 we didn't have the precision that we do now, and because it was dressed panels, they could compensate for any slight difference in the shape of the Countach. I think they got better by the time they got to this stage. It was more productionised. Chrysler had just bought the company. It was much better. But the early days of Lamborghini, that was what it was like. But yeah, I am so chuffed to get these two cars together. I've not seen Revuelto in the metal or carbon before. Very striking. Love the tech on it. Part of me thinks, do we need the battery as well? Do we need 1,000 horsepower? But we certainly need that normally aspirated engine howling at the back. That is signature Lamborghini. I also quite like that it's gone back to two-wheel drive. It's got a dual clutch transmission. I'm looking forward to driving one day, just because Aventador always felt slightly clumsy with that gearbox that it had. So I think that'd be a big change. I'm sorry to see Huracan go. That V10 sound, that howl of V10 will live with me for a long time. But there's a new era of Lamborghini. They're on a roll. They're all sold out or whatever, how many years it is. So I'm really looking forward to driving that in the next few months. But there we go. It's been great to revisit Lamborghini. It's been a long time since I was last here and see behind the scenes. I hope you enjoyed seeing behind the scenes as well, and this look at these cars and the early Countach we have. Well, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.